Welcome back to our deep dive into the Texas housing collapse. In Part 1, we examined 5 suburbs where the market went from bulletproof to breaking point. But the story does not end there. Across the Lone Star State, the unraveling continues in communities that were supposed to represent stability, prosperity, and the Texas dream. Today we are examining 5 more suburbs where reality has shattered expectations in brutal and unexpected ways. These are not minor market adjustments. These are structural failures exposing the fragile foundations beneath years of explosive growth. From interest rate paralysis to luxury market implosions, from infrastructure failures to retirement nightmares, the suburbs we are about to explore reveal different faces of the same crisis. If you thought the first 5 were shocking, prepare yourself. This second group shows just how deep and widespread the damage really is. Number 5. McKinney. Just east of Frisco sits McKinney, a suburb choking on interest rate paralysis. The golden handcuff effect is on full display here. A huge share of homeowners locked in mortgage rates around 3% during the pandemic boom. On paper, they have beautiful homes. In reality, many are house-rich and dangerously cash-poor. Monthly payments consume far more income than they anticipated. They cannot afford to move because selling means giving up that low rate and buying again at 6 or 7%. The market has frozen. Days on market have more than doubled year over year. Homes now sit for 90 to 100 days on average. Sellers remain anchored to prices their neighbors received 2 years ago when every listing sparked bidding wars. That era is gone. The gap between median list price and median sale price in McKinney now exceeds 8%, one of the widest spreads in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. Buyers are demanding steep discounts. Sellers are slowly accepting the brutal truth that their fantasy valuations no longer exist. Transaction volume has collapsed nearly 30% from the peak. The only homes moving quickly are distressed sales, where owners face job relocation, financial strain, or sheer exhaustion. Those listings close after 10 to 15% reductions. For everyone else, this is a painful waiting game. And waiting does not pay the mortgage. McKinney has become the textbook example of a market frozen by the gap between where rates were and where they are now. Number 4. Prosper. North of both Frisco and McKinney lies Prosper, a suburb whose name now feels tragically ironic. This was the luxury showroom of North Texas. If you wanted $1 million home on a large lot with resort-style amenities, Prosper was your destination. That is precisely why the unraveling here is so dramatic. Move-up buyers depend on rising stock portfolios, tech bonuses, and generous corporate packages. Over the last 2 years, all of those income sources have become unstable. Inventory for homes priced above $1.5 million has exploded more than 50%. Hundreds of large spec homes stand empty, waiting for buyers who are in no hurry to commit. Price cuts in this bracket are staggering. Reductions of $200,000, $300,000, even $500,000 are being reported by local agents. This is not a gentle adjustment. This is a fire sale. Builders borrowed heavily to finance these projects. Construction costs have stabilized, but their financing costs have skyrocketed. They cannot afford to sit on finished inventory, so they slash prices and offer aggressive incentives. Those cuts do not just hurt the builders. They reset comparable values for the entire neighborhood. If you bought a $1 million home in Prosper 2 years ago, you may now see a nearly identical property down the street sell for $750,000. $250,000 in equity vanishes overnight. Average days on market for luxury properties has drifted past 100. Every month a home sits empty means another round of mortgage payments, property taxes, and insurance on a vacant asset. Prosper is proving that wealth alone does not shield you from a collapsing market. When the luxury segment breaks, it breaks harder and faster than anyone expects. Number 3. Anna. Far up Highway 75 sits Anna, one of the fastest-growing exurbs in North Texas, and a perfect example of expansion without infrastructure. When prices in McKinney, Frisco, and Prosper exploded, buyers drove north until a builder finally said they qualified. Anna became that place. The trade-off seemed reasonable at the time: lower prices in exchange for a longer commute and fewer amenities. But reality has arrived with force. Much of Anna still depends on narrow 2-lane roads, now clogged with traffic from thousands of new homes. Schools are adding portable classrooms. Basic errands require long drives into neighboring cities. The commute back to Plano or Dallas, which once looked manageable, now stretches well over an hour for many residents. What seemed like a smart financial move is proving far more expensive in time, fuel, and quality of life. Then, the market shifted. Anna and surrounding zip codes now rank among the highest in the state for foreclosure filings. Many are early-stage warnings, but they signal real financial distress. The housing stock is extremely uniform. Most homes were built between 2019 and 2023, creating fierce price competition when demand cools. Inventory has surged more than 60%. Price cuts are standard, with reductions of $30,000 to $40,000 on homes originally listed near $400,000. Remote work fueled much of the boom. Buyers assumed they would stay home most days. But as Dallas-Fort Worth employers pull workers back into offices, the added cost of gas, tolls, and lost hours is pushing household budgets past the breaking point. Suddenly, the math that made Anna look affordable has flipped. For many families in Anna, this is no longer the dream they were sold. It is a fight to hold on to a home whose value keeps slipping while the true cost of living there keeps rising. Number 2. Georgetown. Just up the highway from Leander sits Georgetown, a town that was marketed as the peaceful endgame of the Texas dream. With its massive Sun City development, Georgetown became a magnet for retirees from California, Illinois, and the Northeast who wanted to cash out, buy in the hill country, and enjoy their golden years. Instead, many are now facing a retirement nightmare. The meltdown here is about fixed incomes colliding with rapidly rising costs. Retirees moved to Georgetown expecting lower expenses, predictable sunshine, and a strong sense of community. What they did not count on was everything they depend on getting more expensive all at once. Utilities, groceries, medical expenses, and especially property taxes have all climbed sharply. Counties reassessed home values higher and higher during the boom years. Those paper gains might look nice on a statement, but a bigger assessed value means a bigger tax bill. Pension checks and Social Security deposits do not automatically double just because the county appraiser says your house is worth more. A growing number of senior homeowners who have been in their houses for a decade or more now find themselves unable to keep up with taxes. They are not missing payments because they are irresponsible with money. They are being priced out of their own neighborhoods by a system that assumes they can always pay more. That pressure has frozen much of the market. Seniors who would like to sell and transition into smaller homes or assisted living facilities cannot find buyers at their target price. Homes in age-restricted and active adult communities in Georgetown now sit on the market for an average of 95 days. Buyers, especially new retirees, are recalculating the move. They can no longer assume that selling a California house for $1 million and buying a large place here will automatically improve their financial situation. Inventory in senior-focused developments has climbed over 40% above recent norms. These properties do not appeal strongly to younger families, which cuts out a large part of the buyer pool. Georgetown is now living the warning that cities heavily dependent on retirees are among the most vulnerable to economic shocks. Number 1. Katy. We stay in the Houston area and drive west to Katy, a vast network of master-planned communities like Cinco Ranch, Grand Lakes, and Cane Island. Katy grew as a kind of suburban empire built on one central pillar, the energy industry. When oil and gas are booming, Katy thrives. When that world gets shaky, Katy feels it almost immediately. What is happening now is not a repeat of the 1980s crash, but something more subtle and just as dangerous. The modern energy sector is in transition. Profits can still be high, but companies are no longer hiring in massive waves the way they once did. Automation, new technology, and shareholder demands for capital discipline mean that many firms are doing more with fewer people. That phrase, capital discipline, may sound harmless, but in practice, it often means fewer new jobs and periodic rounds of layoffs. That uncertainty filters directly into the housing market. Sales of higher-priced homes in Katy, especially those above $500,000, have fallen nearly 30%. At the same time, inventory in that price range is up around 45%. That is the classic pattern of a market tipping out of balance. Fewer buyers chasing more expensive listings. Many households who could afford to purchase one of these large homes in the past are now choosing to rent instead because they are unsure about long-term job security. That shift has pushed luxury rental rates downward, which in turn squeezes the investors who bought these homes, counting on strong rental income. The master-planned communities that define Katy were built with the assumption that energy sector jobs would remain stable and well-paid indefinitely. That assumption is now full of doubts. The monthly homeowner association fees in these premium developments can run $200 to $400 or more. Combined with high property taxes and rising insurance costs, the total monthly burden becomes overwhelming when income stability disappears. Katy represents a suburb whose entire identity was tied to a single industry. When that industry enters a period of transformation and uncertainty, the housing market has nowhere to hide. The empire is still standing, but the foundation is cracking. The warning grows louder. From number 5 to number 1, this second wave of suburbs confirms what we saw in Part 1. The Texas housing boom was not built on solid ground. It was built on temporary conditions that have now reversed. Interest rate paralysis in McKinney. Luxury collapse in Prosper. Infrastructure failure in Anna. Retirement crisis in Georgetown. Industry dependence in Katy. Together with the 5 suburbs from Part 1, we now have a complete picture of 10 communities across Texas where the market has fundamentally broken. These are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a statewide housing system that expanded too fast, assumed too much, and ignored too many warning signs. If you are considering buying, selling, or investing in Texas real estate, you cannot afford to ignore these patterns. The conditions that created these meltdowns exist in dozens of other suburbs across the state. Knowledge is your greatest weapon in a market like this. Understanding where the cracks are forming gives you the power to avoid them or, if you are already there, to make informed decisions about what comes next.